our exclusive live training on how to analyze and fix a bot's performance. Now, these are things that I look at when I'm analyzing different bots and different accounts, different things like that. And I wanted to give you kind of like the framework that I look at. Now, this is probably going to reset some of your mental frames that you look at when you're trading. It's really going to set the barrier for understanding trades a lot higher. Now, why is that? You'll see here in a second. But basically, if we're trading as a business, as in we're trading not based on emotion, but based on actual data, then it may take us time to actually make changes to our bots and more time than you may think. So let's dive into this. Let's first talk about the essential data that's needed. If we're going to analyze a bot's performance, what data do we need to actually be able to make a good decision? Number one, proven strategy. What do I mean by this? Somebody else that you know has used this strategy consistently for more than 6 months. You back tested the strategy to work for over a year or some variant like that. You have seen and you know that this strategy can work long term. If that is a yes, we are good to go on the first check. Number two, we need to have at least 50, ideally 100 trades. Why? There's this theory in math called I don't know if it's a theory, but it's just the law of large numbers, which means when we're looking at and analyzing the performance of one specific outcome, we need to look at it in the total sphere of all the trades and all the data that we can get. So the more trades that we can get, the better we will be at being able to improve the bot and understanding if that one loss was actually just a one-off event or a common occurrence. And so we need at least 50 trades to make any real decision on whether we should change a bot or not. Now, I know a lot of you guys feel like, wow, that's a high bar, especially when we're trading these longer term trades that take a month to close. That is true. It takes a while, which is why we start off with, is it a proven strategy? Has it been back tested? And both of our cases of a one-on-one strategy or a put credit spread strategy, which is our main bullish bots, they've been tested by Tasty Live. We know people who've been trading them for a decades now, and we have our own back tests that prove they work well. So we have a proven strategy there. So for the most part, we need to stick with it up until 50 to 100 trades. Then we can start making more decisions. Step two, after we have more than 50 trades, we want to make sure we have these numbers. Do we know the win rate? And do we know the expected return? If you're trading manually, you'll have to calculate these numbers. A win rate just stands for, of all the trades that were placed, what percentage of them were winning? And expected return means on average, what is our average return per trade? Which means, according to both the losses and the wins, what is our average profit per trade? And that's our expected return per trade. And we need those two numbers because, as you'll see here in a bit, it's be very important. So one, do we have a strategy? Two, do we have at least 50 trades that we can look at? And next, we have the win rate and expected return. Now, this is shown inside the options auto trader when you click into a specific bot that will show you the win rate and expected return side by side. So you can see these numbers there for you. Now, we need to know all the exit reasons. This is one of the biggest levers we can pull. Why did all of our bots exit? Did it expire? Did it the stop loss? All this stuff. This is also shown inside of the options auto trader. When you go to all of your closed trades and you click on the hamburger menu, it shows you all the details about the trade, specifically why it was closed. It hit the take profit, it hit the stop loss, it expired early, whatever it was. You want to compile all those exit reasons to help you understand what is the most common reason for this exiting so that we know where's the biggest levers we can pull and change to improve the bot performance. So when we're talking about improving a bot's performance, we need to make sure we first have these 4 or almost 5 basically essential data points. Is it a proven strategy? Do we have more than 50 trades? Does it have a win rate and expected return? And do we have all the exit reasons? If we do, we are good to go. Now, how do we diagnose this step by step while we have all this data? Okay. First, we start off with the win rate. Okay. We want to make sure that this is a back tested strategy or something that we are mimicking based on somebody else. Are we within plus or minus 3% of the back tested numbers? So if the back test gave us a 90% win rate, is our current win rate somewhere between 87 and 93%? Okay, are we within an acceptable range of where that back test is? If we are not within an acceptable range of the back test, there are some things that we can start diving into and fixing right off the bat. Like maybe it was a trend issue. We didn't align it with the right trend. maybe we're not getting filled at the best prices. So we either need to adjust our back test or we need to adjust the way our bot is filling those trades, right? So there's a lot of things that can tell us if we're not getting the win rate that we want. So first we want to make sure, are we within acceptable range of the win rate that a back test is giving us? Number two, are we within acceptable range for our emotions? Look, everybody is different, okay? So if you are someone who is okay with having frequent losses, aka something like a 50% win rate, but when you win 500, when you lose 400, that's an amazing strategy. And so if you're someone who's okay with losing 50% of trades, that is acceptable within your emotions. But if you're someone who needs to see more winners to be okay with yourself, then you need to be someone who has a 75 to 80% win rate, maybe your tolerance level. So you just want to make sure that this is more aligning to not really bot performance, but bot and personality alignment, to make sure that you're running a right strategy that actually works for your goals and not something that you're going to get out of early. Okay. So when it comes to win rate, make sure we're within back tested numbers. If we're not, we'll start looking at fills. We'll start looking at a different type of performance trend, things like that. And we want to make sure that it's an acceptable win rate for us. Number two, after we look at win rate, we're going to look at expected return, which is the average return per trade, factoring in both wins and losses. So we want to first see, is it positive? Now, this may seem like a crazy thing, but a lot of people aren't running a positive number. And the reason being is most people don't even know what an expected return is, okay? That's going to be your average return across both wins and losses. You want to make sure it's positive. Now, again, if it's not positive, that means for every trade you place, you are likely to end up with a negative outcome. And so if it's not positive, then why would you ever want to place that trade? For instance, my one-on-one trades, my outcomes are around a $400 to $500 expected return, which means that every time I put on a trade, on average, I'm expected to make a $400 return. Now that factors in both winners that are higher, losers that are lower, etc. But again, the expected return shows that. And also, we're running this based on a back-tested strategy. Is that expected return within the right levels? Is it within $5 of that expected number? Because we want to make sure that nothing is too far up. A back test may seem really good, but if we can't actually execute a bot that the same statistics, same probabilities, the same times, then it's not going to work out well long term. So we just want to make sure that we're reconfirming that the strategy and the bot are working together. And again, for win rate, just within 3% of the backtest numbers, except for range, expected return, just make sure it's positive. I ideally like to see anything over 50. When I'm trading with larger size, like a one-on-one on futures, I like to see anything above 100, 200, 500 is ideal, but 50 should be your minimum standard. Why? Because if you're trading shorter term trades, you want to make sure you're above 50 because of commissions, right? You want to make sure that you're making a decent profit after paying commissions. So expected return, I want to make sure at least 50 there. And now again, risk to reward here. I want to make sure that every trade has a consistent risk to reward. Okay, when I look at every trade over the last 50 or so trades, did they all have the same breakdown? Was it a consistent stop size, a consistent take profit size? Now, again, if you're running a bot, that's good because that should be preset for you. However, if you're using a non-conventional stop loss, maybe something like trailing, maybe something like short strike hit, whatever, you want to make sure that is having a consistent risk level that you can count on. And so again, a consistent risk to reward. Now you also want to make sure that it's in line with back tested numbers. Again, is our risk to reward within those ideal levels? And then again, we can adjust the numbers based on win rate. Now, what do I mean by this? Okay, so once we pass the win rate section, we pass the expected return, we fix everything we need to fix there, and then we're going to come to risk to reward, right? And so we look at it. Let's say it's a 3-to-1 risk to reward. So that means for every $3 I risk, I have a chance to make $1. Okay, something like that. If our win rate is extremely high, we can adjust this risk to reward rate, okay? So if our win rate is above 90%, then we can easily decrease our stop loss amount, and that will lower our win rate, but our win rate's so high that it doesn't actually matter that much. So we can actually decrease our loss size, move our win rate down, but long-term it's still going to work. So based on where our win rate is, if it's above 90%, we can actually make our stop losses smaller, or we can make our take profits bigger. Either way, same equation. Or if our win rates are too low, we can make our take profits smaller or our stop losses larger to account to actually push the win rate higher. So we can use win rate and risk to reward to adjust that bot performance as well. Next, we have what we call exit reasons. So again, this is what I mentioned. We go through all of our previous exit trades. What was the most common reason for it to exit a trade? We look at that and we can look at, okay, cool. Our largest losses were one-off losses that came from something like an early expiration or came from something like this. You start to see commonalities and patterns in the largest losses. Again, I'll always go after the largest losses first, because if you can actually get rid of those large losses, then you can really change around a strategy. And so you want to look, is there any common patterns around why a super large loss happened? Is it the market trend change, something like that? If so, we can start putting in more exit reasons, more entry reasons, or adjusting our stop and entry to make sure we filter out those bad trades, filter out those trades that just lose for no reason. So again, first thing we do is we look at win rate. Is that in check? Are we making actual money per trade? Can we adjust the risk to reward to help artificially inflate our win rate or decrease it based on what we're doing? And then after that, is there any way we can filter out losing trades in a better way? So this is how we diagnose any issue with a bot. So again, that was pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I know I went through a lot there. We're going to open up the Q&A here. Feel free to put inside of the chat message box that I'm looking at if you had any questions about this topic. I'll get to all the questions here right now that I can for this topic, and I would love to answer any. This will go inside of the recording as well. The Q&A will be attached to this training, and then we'll get into the next one. But is there any questions that we have about this? Feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll get right to it. I'll give about a minute here to let anyone type out any questions they have. If not, we can continue on to the next mini train. Alrighty. No questions so far. Looks good. Again, if you ever come up with questions later, feel free to shoot me a message inside of Circle, but let's continue on.